Hi, my name is Amar, and today we are going to explore my renting journey in the UK. I will help you understand the types of houses that are available in the UK, how you can start searching for a house, what are the websites you can visit, what happens once you have identified a house online, what happens post your viewing is done, what happens once you have finalized a house. And in this journey, I'm going to share all the experiences I had, the mistakes I made, the good decisions I made, and a lot more. So let's start. So before we actually get into the search of a house, we need to decide that what kind of house we are planning to rent. So we will see a few typical types of properties that are available in the UK. To start with, the first type of property that is available is the bungalow. It's the same like we have in India. It's a one-story individual house which can be rented out. Next is detached. So the only difference between a bungalow and a detached property is that a detached property is ground floor plus one, but otherwise it's again an individual standalone house. Next is semi-detached, as the name suggests. Two houses having a common wall is called as a semi-detached house. Next type of property that is available is the terraced house. So terraced houses are nothing. It's a continuous row of houses built one after another, and they share common walls between them. Then we also have flats and apartments like we have in India, and we have maisonettes. So maisonettes is typically a combination of, or you can say, uh, a set of two houses. One family is staying on the ground floor, another one staying on the first floor. Usually we'll have an entrance for the first floor from outside the house like you see in the picture, or it can be a common door, which again will have two doors in once you enter inside, one going up and second for the ground floor owner or the tenant. So these are typically the six types of houses that are available in UK, other than the studio apartments and the cottages. But when you go online and when you're trying to search for a house, these are the six common types of houses that you can see on the various websites that are available in the UK. So before we jump into the actual search of a house, let me share my experiences uh, as to why I would prefer a certain type of house when compared to another. So I stay in a semi-detached house, um, and I would prefer to stay in a semi-detached house or a detached house or a bungalow when compared to a maisonette or a terraced house or a flat or apartment. Why I say so? Because if you have a bungalow or if you have a detached or semi-detached flat, it will come with a garden, maybe both in the front and in the back, right? If you have a good big backyard garden, you can play with your son, you can spend time with your family in the garden, you can dry your clothes in the garden, you can do gardening. So you can spend a lot of time and you can do a lot of things if you have an open area in the house or in the property which you are renting, when compared to a maisonette or a apartment. uh, there are a lot of apartments or flats here which don't even have a balcony. And maisonette, I have not seen a maisonette with a balcony. It's just an enclosed set of rooms where you don't have anything to do, and you are confined in those rooms. Flats here also to me are more kind of a hotel, a big gallery, with one flat after another. And because of the weather, I think here in UK, mostly the apartments or the buildings here are kind of a closed setup. It's not like we have in India, where basically there is a lot of open space in the middle, and it's airy, and basically a lot of fresh air comes in. But in here, what I've seen is most of the buildings which I went during my house hunting, they were completely closed. As soon as you enter the main door, you will feel hot. You will feel the air is much hotter inside. So I didn't like it, frankly speaking, when I went to see flats and apartments here in the UK. So as per my experience, I would always prefer a semi-detached or a detached or a bungalow when compared to a maisonette, or a flat or an apartment. So I am not asking you to basically prefer a certain property, but again, I'm just sharing my experience. And yes, one important thing to consider is that if you are going for a detached or semi-detached or bungalow kind of property, then it will cost you a lot more when compared to a flat or a maisonette. Why I'm saying so? Because these properties comes with some maintenance also. You'll have to maintain the garden. You may end up spending a lot of money in maintaining the plants. You will have to spend money on the upkeep of the front and the backyard garden. No such expenses are there when you are trying to rent a flat, apartment, or a maisonette, because usually these properties will not have these extra facilities or um, extra things where you need to maintain them. Yeah, so I think about this, and when you start seeing the properties yourself, I think you can think on these terms and basically decide as to what kind of property you are looking to rent for. Another important consideration is that you may make up your mind that okay, I only want to rent a detached property or a semi-detached property, but there is no guarantee, right, that in the end, when you will start looking for the houses, you are going to get the house you are looking for. In my case, I finally was able to get a house after 1 month of my stay in UK. So it took me a lot of time to find a house and for the owner to agree, uh, for him to rent me his house. So if it happens for you quickly, I think nothing more like it. I would say you are very fortunate if you are able to find a house very quickly. But in case it gets delayed, then basically, as the time will pass, right, you will probably be more desperate to rent a house as soon as possible, because your hotel bills will be mounting up. uh, so you never know what kind of property you might end up getting. But still, to start with, I think we need to decide that okay, this is the kind of property we are looking for, so that we can at least start that basic search, right? And then as and when the time progresses, I think we'll have to reevaluate our options and see um, what best we can get down the line. Okay, so let's get into the next phase of our journey, which is how to identify a house, or where we can go and look for a house. And before we do that, I think another important consideration that we need to decide is that what area in UK you are looking to rent a house. Um, for example, if you need to visit office, say thrice a week or 4 times a week, and you have a big team here in UK, then obviously I think you will prefer a city or a town in where basically most of your team members are located, so that you can gel with them, you can go for family outings, you can attend birthdays, and you are not you don't feel isolated, right, sitting in living in a city where you don't know anyone. So it's always better to prefer a city where your co-workers are located. But in case you have that flexibility that you can rent a house anywhere, you typically mostly be working from a house, then basically the area becomes very wide, right? You can select any place in UK, and basically you can start your search there. But again, before we start our search, I think fix 2 or 3 different towns or cities where you preferably planning to live, because again, it may be a possibility that you may not find a house in that one city which you are looking for. So you should always have 2 3 different options with which you can go with. Uh, so that you don't have to scramble towards the middle of your journey, right? Identifying another city where you need to rent a house. So I will say decide on 2 3 towns in order of your preference, 1 2 and 3. Start with the first preference. If you're not able to find a house in first 5 10 days um, of your arrival in UK, then I think I would advise you to start exploring the other options too, because time flies and bills are mounting. So let's start with the next phase of journey, which is where you can go and look for the houses here in the UK. So now let's start searching for our house. There are a lot of online portals where we can go and search for a house in the UK, but the three most prominent websites are Rightmove, Zoopla, and OpenRent. I typically prefer Rightmove because I found it a lot more interesting and a lot more flexible in terms of what I needed. But we will visit all three one by one. The other two maybe in a less detail. So when you come to Rightmove, the first thing you need to do is put the city name in which you are trying to find a house. So say for example, if you're trying to find a house in London, you can put London and you can say to rent. It will give you uh, a lot more additional filters. So if you are trying to find a house in specific area or in London only, then you can select this search area only, or else you can widen your search to say a mile. So a mile is equal to 1.6 kilometers. So it will give you all the houses which are available in 1.6 kilometers of the city or the location which you have entered. Property type, for now we will keep it any. Price range, you can put your price range. Say I'll put a wide price range between 1000 to 2050 £2250. Add it to site. Probably I would like to look at the properties that have been posted in the last 24 hours, because there the possibility of availability is much higher when compared to something that was posted say 3 days back or a week back. Number of bedrooms as per our requirement, and then we will click on find properties. So now, before we proceed with our search, I think we need to put some additional filters depending on our requirements. So we'll go to the property type. Say, for example, I'm looking for an individual house and not for a flat. Then I will select the various options available, uh, where I've selected detached, semi-detached, and terraced. Next important decision you need to make is if you're coming for, say, a period of 1 2 year. I don't think you should be investing Uh, in the furniture and in setting up the apartment. So I would always look for a furnished apartment. But if you are here to stay for a longer duration, say for a period of 2 3 4 5 years, then of course you can basically go for a unfurnished property, because again, unfurnished properties are available. Um, Unfurnished properties are more in number when compared to a furnished apartment. So there are a lot more unfurnished apartments available when compared to furnished. But again, it's up to our individual choice. So as soon as we selected the furnished, right, the properties went down to 7. If we uncheck this, we have 33 results. But as soon as we select furnished, the number of properties went down. But I was looking for a furnished property, so that is why I'm taking an example of a furnished property. Some additional filters, like if you want a garden, yes, then you can select garden. If you don't want to uh, share the house, or if you don't want to include the search for retirement homes and student accommodation, you can put those filters, and you are done with your search. And once you have selected all the required filters based on your criteria, you can click done. So now we have all the houses that qualify our criteria. So we can start going through these houses one by one. So say for example, we like this house, it has 13 photographs in it. So we click on it, we go through the various photographs that are available inside the house, the furniture that is available, the appliances that are available. Typically in UK, I think the basic white goods are available in all the houses, which includes your a gas oven, a refrigerator, a freezer, um, at least a washing machine. So these are the typical things that are always available in a house, and a boiler, of course, for the heating. But I would say please look for a property which has a dryer as well as a dishwasher, because of the weather that we have here in the UK. Because in the winter season you can't dry your clothes even if you have a garden. So you will need a washer dryer, and also I would say prefer a house, or look for a house which is having a dishwasher. Otherwise, we don't have maids available here in UK like we have in India, and even if they are pretty expensive. So it's worth to look for a house which has all the possible big appliances that you will need. So once you have gone through the photographs, and if you like it, I think you can view some additional details. This property is available from uh, 2nd of March. A deposit is this much. I'll explain all what how the deposit is calculated, and other things. You can look at the layout, how big are the rooms, and a few other things. Now, some key things to basically verify when you're looking for a property is, uh, if you are planning to commute using a train, how far it is from the nearest train station. If you are having kids, whether we have some good schools nearby to the flat we are going to look at. So in this case, if you see, there are quite a few good schools available at say zero point 0.2 miles, zero point 0.4 miles, and the offset rating is also good and outstanding. So if you have a kid or kids, please make sure that you are looking at schools. This is one reason I prefer Rightmove over others, because here basically they also give a offset rating, so I can easily see that okay, if we have some good schools in the area nearby where I'm looking for a house. So now, once you have gone through these websites, or once you have identified a house, the next steps comes in. What next? Now you have seen a house online, you like it. So now what's next? So the biggest mistake which I did was, when I was looking for a house, I clicked on this request details option, and I basically entered all my details, and then I was expecting a call back from the letting agency or the marketing agency who has put this flat for rent. But I think that is the biggest mistake I did, because we are in need of a house, right? We need to get a house as soon as possible. So it's we who need to call a letting agent or a letting agency, and inquire them about the house, and fix a viewing for the house. Viewing is nothing, it's a in-person visit to the house, where the letting agent will show you the house, and he will explain some basic details about the house. One thing to notice here is uh, that unfortunately, I think most letting agents are very rigid. They don't plan viewings based on your availability, but they plan viewings based on their availability and on a specific date and time. If you miss that date and time, you can always reschedule, but it is very difficult that house will be available if you are trying to reschedule your viewing, because there are multiple people looking for houses, especially if it's a good house, and it's has a reasonable rent. So instead of you dropping them an email, or requesting a viewing through the email feature, the best thing is, if you like this property is being marketed by Homelink. So go to this particular letting agency or agency, get their number and call them. Or best is, every high street here is having a lot of letting agencies offices. So go there and then visit them in person and see uh, and inquire them about the properties. There are many chances, or there are many cases in which they have not posted all their properties online and they have multiple other properties available with them. So best either call them, inquire about the property which you have seen online, fix the viewing as soon as possible, and if that property is not available, but uh, they might have other properties available for them to show you. So again, to reiterate, don't basically rely on this feature. Call the letting agent, call the letting agency, and fix a viewing apartment. They probably are not going to revert back on the inquiry which you are doing. And this is one big mistake which I did. So I waited for 4 or 5 days, basically, um, to hear back from them. But then I think we realized that instead of they calling us, we need to call them, we need to visit them, and then we need to arrange for viewings as soon as possible. Because in some cases, again, to give you my example, when we went to visit a flat, uh, 10 different families were waiting to see the same flat. So that letting agent showed one flat to 11 people together. So that was kind of a rush we had for one of our properties. It was not the case for all the properties, but there were quite a few properties where there were multiple people who came together to see the property. And once you have seen the property, the person who shares his concurrence the first to the letting agent basically is going to process your application um, the first. So basically, the quickly you need to uh, decide, the better. So two things again: call the letting agents, fix a viewing as soon as possible, and then once your viewing is done, if you like the house, then they will request for some basic details from you. Share those details as soon as possible so that they can go to the landlord and they can present your details to the landlord, so that he or she can share their concurrence for you to proceed with the next steps. So we visited Rightmove. Now let's go to Zoopla and we'll probably try to do the same thing on Zoopla. So again, let's put London here. We'll again put some filters based on what we are looking for. We'll do the initial search and then it will give us additional search criterias. Same like Rightmove. Here also we can expand the area in which we are looking for accommodation. Some additional filters, like we want a garden, we want a furnished property, we want something that is available within 1 month, which has been posted in last 24 hours, and then we can update the results. So again, like I mentioned in the beginning, some properties are common across Rightmove, Zoopla, and OpenRent. So like you see, this property is marketed through OpenRent. So ideally, it will also be available in OpenRent. And OpenRent is a platform or is a website where only owners mostly rent their properties directly without a letting agent. So this property is mostly presented by the owner himself rather than a letting agent. So in this case also, instead of sending an email, call, and call. That is the quickest way of finding a house or arranging a viewing. Emails or messages are not going to be answered, so don't do that mistake. So in this case, I think we only found a couple of options, both from OpenRent, so we can go and look for the various photographs that are available. If we like that, we can look for some other details. Uh, like here also, the property is available from 1st of March. The EPC rating is C. again. So I think the rating is kind of an average rating. It shows you the nearest schools and the nearest railway stations. And like I said, uh, it doesn't shows you the offset rating. So in this case, if you are looking for a property at Zoopla and you like something, then you will have to go and look at the UK school's website to see what kind of rating this school got in their last assessment. Features and descriptions and some more details. So like this, you can go through the properties that are available on Zoopla, on OpenRent, on Rightmove, or any other portal which allows you to browse properties online. Again, the key thing is you need to identify two, three good letting agents which have lot of properties available on these websites, and then you need to call them, and then basically you need to share your requirements as to what kind of property you are looking for, and from there basically you can take forward your search. So don't just depend on the websites. This is only the first basic step to, I would say, to identify or to find some good letting agents or letting agencies, and then you need to coordinate with them, talk to them, go visit them, and they can then show you a lot more properties that are available online. Um, so that will probably help speed up the process a lot. So that is what I gained from my experience, that not to depend on these websites. These are only the first step in your entire process. Better get in contact with the letting agents who have a lot of properties available with them in the area in which you are looking for, and then basically try to arrange the viewings as soon as possible. So say you found a good property online, you talk to the agent, uh, your viewing is set. So now you went to see the property, you really like the property. So as I said, if you like the property and if you want to go ahead, uh, tell the person who is showing you the property that yes, you are interested in renting this property. He will ask you for some basic details like what is your annual salary, how many people are going to stay in the house, and then he's going to ask you currently what place you are living, where you are working, and a few basic details. So give those basic details as soon as possible, so that he can share those details with the owner, and owner can review those details, and he can basically share his concurrence whether to go ahead with the next steps or not. So I will explain what happens if the owner agrees in the next step. But this is a typical process uh, that happens once basically you have once you like a property and you want to go ahead with the property. So letting agent will ask you for some basic details, and you need to give those details. The owner will review those details, and then he will let the letting agent know whether he is willing to proceed forward uh, with the renting agreement or not. Okay, so let's start with the next step. Considering that your owner has given his go ahead and he is ready to rent you the property. Now, let's see what happens next. So, the owner of the property has given his consent and he is okay to rent his property to you. So, next comes is your holding deposit. Holding deposit is nothing but it's kind of a assurance that yes, you want to rent the property and you want to book this property until the other formalities can be completed. What other formalities? Basically, it's your reference check. where a reference check will happen, and if the reference check goes through, only then basically you will be probably rented the property. So it takes some time. So meanwhile, we want to, or the owner wants to hold on to the property, right? That okay, yes, you are really interested in renting the property, and um, that is why he would request you a holding deposit. So as per UK laws, uh, it's 1 week's rent. The holding deposit cannot be more than 1 week's rent. It's the 1 week's rent which you need to pay as soon as your owner agrees to rent you the property. So this allows things to move to the next stage and removes the property from the market. So in the previous step, right, we had seen one option, include let agreed. So this is the concept. If you like the property and if you have paid the holding deposit, the corresponding uh, agent or the leasing agency basically will mark that property as let agreed. So you have agreed to rent the property, but your documentation or basically your reference check is still in progress. So until that is done, the property is kept on hold by paying 1 week's deposit. So holding deposit is calculated as rent per month multiplied by 12 divided by the number of weeks in a year, that is 52. So for example, if your rent or if your expected rent is £1,600, so the holding deposit will be calculated as follows: 1,600 multiplied by 12 divided by 52, and that will come to £369.23. So you will have to deposit this amount with the letting agent. Please note that mostly letting agents will not accept any cash. So you will either have to pay it through a card or you will have to do a bank transfer to them. It goes to the letting agent, not to the owner. If you are directly dealing with the owner, then that's a different case. Then you will have to pay this amount to the owner himself. But otherwise, this holding deposit is given to the letting agent and not the owner. A few other terms which you need to understand as you are planning to rent uh, accommodation: security deposit. So in UK, again, a landlord or a letting agent can only take 5 weeks of rent as a security deposit. He can take less, and not less is wrong, I would say, but he cannot take more. He cannot take more than 5 weeks rent. So typically, again, to give you an example, if your initial rent was £1,600, your total security deposit will come as 1846.15. That means 369.23 multiplied by 5. This is your 1 week's rent. So it will have to be multiplied by 5. That amount will be your security deposit for the property. So like in India, we pay a security deposit, right? It's typically is it can be uh, two, three, four, 5 times because we don't have, I think, the strict regulations that we have like in UK. But here it can be maximum 5 weeks of per week rent. So if your per week rent is 369.25, you can multiply that per week rent by 5, and that will be the total security deposit that you will have to pay if your agreement goes through or if your reference check goes through. So ideally, for a 1,600 pounds per rent per month rent, you will end up paying 3,446 pounds to the letting agent. So just make sure that you calculate the amount that you will need uh, to get into the property. Again, this amount also includes the holding deposit that you have initially paid to block the property. So, of course, this amount will get deducted from 3,446.15. So, the basically the total deposit that you will pay is 1846 1846 basically. So this amount will come down to 3076 after deducting the 369.23 holding deposit that you have already paid. So as I mentioned, the agent will need to receive the above monies settlement as cleared funds before they can release the key of the property. So if your reference check goes through and if everything is good, and if you guys are going to sign the agreement, you and the owner, then keys will only be handed over to you once the entire first month rent and the security deposit is paid and is cleared. So again, a couple of things to notice that this has to be done through a bank transfer most probably. And if you're trying to wire this um, across the globe, or if it's through an international account, make sure or keep in mind it might take 3 to 5 days to for the money to get credited. So just keep that in mind, that it may take some time. It's not that if you initiate a transfer today, right, you will get the keys immediately. You will not get the keys until the money is cleared and basically the entire settlement amount is paid. Key things to note: until you sign the agreement, uh, you can withdraw, and your tenant and your owner can also withdraw from the agreement which you are planning to basically sign. If you withdraw, then your holding deposit will be lost. Your letting agent or your owner is not going to return you the holding deposit because you are declining the offer, or you are declining the agreement which was already agreed upon. But if your landlord withdraws the agreement, he says, okay, I don't want to rent you the property any longer, then the letting agent or the owner should return you the holding deposit. So it depends who is basically withdrawing from signing the agreement. If it's you, your holding deposit will be withheld and you will lose this money. Uh, but if your landlord is declining to sign the agreement, then he will have to give you back the holding deposit which was initially paid. One key important thing to notice: in most cases, if you are not going in a shared accommodation, so the above mentioned payment or the rent does not includes any uh, utility bills like council tax, water and waste charges, electricity, gas, TV license, force, and broadband rentals. If you want to basically understand about these utility bills in detail, so I have already created another video. You can find that video in the description section, and you can go through that video to understand uh, how much charges you may incur um, for these utilities in a month. For me, it typically comes to around 2900 pounds per month, including my rentals. But yeah, if you want more details, you can refer to that which I have already created. Documents. So, as I mentioned initially, once your landlord agrees that okay, he's okay to rent you the property, you will pay the holding deposit. Along with that, you need to share a few other things. You need to share the rent share code. Um, Again, this can be basically downloaded from a UK website. I will probably show in this video later how to get a rent share code. They will typically ask you for your last three pay slips and bank statement. For me, because I had traveled to UK for the first time, I provided my Indian pay slips and the bank statement. Um if you have been staying in UK for the from in the past, then they will also ask you for a previous landlord's contact details and reference. In my case, again, because this was my first time to UK, so I provided a reference letter from my employer. um, all occupants copies of passports, again, the number of people who are planning to stay in the property, you'll have to share the passport copies of all the people. And uh, last 3 years address history, again in my case I had provided the address history from India. So these are the typical documents that you will have to give. Based on these, there is a third party, basically, that will do a reference check for you. Again, depending on these details, it may take from 3 to 5 days for that third party or that agency to come up with a reference check result. If the reference checks comes clean and positive, then I think the next step will be to deposit rest of the uh, security deposit and the rent for you to sign the agreement and collect the keys. If it comes negative, then I think your holding deposit will be returned back to you, and unfortunately, you will have to start with the entire process again. You can also provide additional documents if your reference checks comes in negative in the first attempt, but then again, it's a question mark whether it will go through again the second time around or not. So it's a complicated topic which can be discussed separately, and unfortunately, I won't be able to help on that because I haven't gone through that situation, and here. I'm only sharing my real life experiences here, so I don't want to comment on that. But what I've heard is that in case the reference check is not clean, then they may ask for additional documents, and based on that, they can still return with a positive result. So your reference check is all good. You have signed the agreement. You have paid the rent and the deposit. Now the next important thing we need to take care is to collect keys and do a inventory check. So in UK here there is a concept of inventory. Like when your letting agent or your owner basically will hand you over the keys, right? He will also hand you over the list of items that are there in the house, a complete list, right from say a number of spoons to sofa, TV, whatever goods are there in that house, especially in case of a furnished apartment. Even it's an unfurnished apartment, still there will be an inventory list which will say that okay, these are the white goods available in the kitchen, and whatever articles or whatever basically things are available in the house, it will be a complete list of all the things. Not only the things, it will list out whether the floors are wooden, how good is the paint, is there any seepage or leakage, anything basically which is there in the house and can be documented, that will be part of the inventory. So as a tenant or as a renter, it is your responsibility or your basically task to ensure that whatever is available in that inventory which is being handed over to you at the time of moving into the house or taking the keys, you match each and every thing in that inventory list. And if you see any discrepancies, you need to report those discrepancies, I think within 7 days of moving into the property. I will have to check what is the exact time frame, but the earlier you do, the better. So the best thing I would advise is as soon as you get the keys, go along with your letting agent, take all the photographs, videos that you can take, so that you can compare the articles that are available in the house at the time of collecting the key with the items that are available in that inventory that has been given to you by your letting agent or the owner. So it's a very important thing to do, because what will happen is when you will leave the property after a year or after your agreement comes to a close, another inventory will be done at the time of exit, and it will be uh, checked with the one which you were submitted at the time of occupying the property. And if there is some difference between these two checklists, then that amount will be deducted from your security deposit. So if you want to ensure that no unexpected amount is being deducted from your security deposit, please ensure that you map or match the inventory list which you have given at the time of entering the property, and you report any discrepancies. And you need to do a similar thing when you're leaving the property. You need to take all the evidences, all the photographs, all the videos at the time of leaving the property, so that you can justify that okay, whatever was handed over to you at the time of entry is being handed over back when you are exiting the property. So make sure you take the inventory checklist very seriously, and you ensure that the correct findings or correct articles are being entered in the inventory uh, checklist or inventory list that is being handed over to you, else it will cost you while when you leave the property. Another important thing to notice is uh, that here in UK, it's a practice or it's a rule that when a property is being handed over to you, it has been professionally cleaned. So when you are leaving the property, then again it will be your responsibility to ensure that you hand over the property in that clean condition in which it was handed over to you. So make sure that you keep the property clean. Even if you keep the property clean, I think at the time of exiting the property, you will have to get the deep cleaning done. So keep that in mind. So before I conclude, I think again, based on my experience, I would say when you are booking accommodation from India, try to book a hotel or a Airbnb in the city in which you are planning to rent a house or apartment, so that it becomes easy for you to arrange for a viewing and reach there on time without wasting too much money and time, because you might have to view multiple houses before you can finalize one. And if you're staying far from the city where basically we are planning to rent a house, it will cost you a lot of time and money. Also, weather can be very unpredictable. The transportation can be very unpredictable. Like in my case, I was looking for a house in a different city from where I was staying. On the map, it showed that probably it will take an hour and 30 minutes for me to reach there. But unfortunately, due to the transportation um, issues, right, it took me more than 2.5 hours to reach there, and I missed my viewing because I didn't had enough um, buffer time for the viewing. But there can be a flip side also. The next time, in one of my next viewings, I thought, okay, I'll reach a little early, right, so that I have enough buffer and I don't miss my viewing. So in that case, I reached an hour early, unfortunately. And these letting agents are so uh, hell-bent with their timings, right, that even if they were there, they only basically attended me at the time, at the fixed time of my viewing. So I had to basically roam in the area for almost an hour before I can finally view the house. So this is one tip I would say. Please try to book your initial temporary accommodation in the city where you are planning to rent a house, so that you can save time and money. Next, I think tip from my experiences, um, try to come to a decision as soon as possible, because you never know whether the person will basically be okay to rent you the house or not. So the earlier you decide and the earlier you tell your letting agent, the soon you will get the decision from your owner for you to proceed with next steps. Um, so I know it's a big decision to make, that whether this house suits our requirement or not, or we might have a lot of apprehensions that okay, we might find another good house, and a lot of other thoughts will come to your mind. But again, based on my experience, it can become really difficult, um, um, to find a house, uh, at least in my case. So the earlier you decide, the better. If basically, uh, your friends can help you find a accommodation or a house before you actually reach UK, then nothing more like it. If you have trust in them that okay, they can see the house on your behalf, and you are okay to basically go by their word and based on their judgment, then I think that's the best possible thing you can do, because that will help you save a lot of money also, and you will not end up spending a lot of money in your hotel or a Airbnb, if your friends or colleagues can take that decision on your behalf, and you're willing to bank on their judgment. So that can also help you basically land a good accommodation pretty early, uh, once you reach UK. Else, I think, like I've explained, right, you will have to follow all the steps, and you will have to find a good letting agent with a lot of properties, so that you can find accommodation quickly. What else can I tell from my experience? Nothing comes to mind. If something comes to mind, I'll update the description section of my video. So all the very best with your house hunting. I hope you can find a good house soon after you arrive in UK, and you don't face any issues, or you don't do the mistakes which I did, especially the one where I sent an email and waited for the letting agent to get back to me. Again, to reiterate, uh, call your letting agents, go to their offices, which mostly are situated on all the high streets of that particular town, and show that urgency that okay, you are really looking to rent a house, so that they can basically present you with all the options they have available in that city or in a nearby city, because a letting agent might have offices in multiple towns or cities here in the UK. So finding a good letting agent will also help you find a good house um, more quickly. Thank you so much for your time today, and all the very best again for your house hunting here in UK. I hope you will be able to find a house soon. Thank you.